Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to the Rebel, Reject, Create podcast. And today, my guest is Christina Hammond-Aziz, the CEO of Rainmaker Solutions, who are, well, you see, this is where it gets complicated. I'd like to say a change management consultancy, but I don't think that quite sums it up, does it, Christina?
No.
Hi. So, what do
Hi.
you actually do?
Um, if I was to put it into one sentence, we enable governments and companies around the world to make the changes they need to deliver the impact that they need to in the outside world.
Right.
Um,
And why can't they do that this themselves?
I think they absolutely can. So actually, I think it's worth actually saying that. So people will probably say that we are a consultancy, and anybody who has worked with us and knows us knows that we hate being called consultants. The reality is that nobody else actually makes change happen other than the people in the organizations themselves. Um,
Right.
Really often, they know exactly what needs to change. They might not quite know how to
Hmm.
get there, and they're battling things that we don't have to worry about. So they are battling day-to-day operations. They are battling internal politics. They are battling um, policies that have been created by their organization to keep them working in the same way and keep their organization stable.
Hmm.
Um, and all we do is come in at a time when one of their change makers says, I think we could do this better. Can you just come and provide us with a little bit of might to help us work out how? Um, and that's all we do.
That's all we do.
All we do.
It sounds like one of those extremely, oh, what's the word? Understatements, all we do. So what's the secret sauce? I mean, what perspective or what difference does a Rainmaker team bring that allows this to happen?
Um, so if you think about it, business change or digital transformation, they are such overused words. They're not even buzzwords anymore. They are just hugely overused words. They're like business jargon. Um, there is a reality that none of our organizations can ever afford to stay the same. It doesn't matter if they are a charitable organization. It doesn't matter if they are delivering the current wave of technology products. It doesn't matter if they are a government department that is serving the needs of citizens in this country. Um, the environment in which everybody is delivering and what they're delivering is constantly changing.
Hmm.
Um, that change means that um, we need to be able to continually evolve
Right.
and put ourselves into a position where our people are empowered and enabled and feel safe to be able to continually evolve. However, we are still primarily stuck in the last century where we believe that change requires significant transformation
Right.
or requires transformation. Um, what is Rainmaker's secret sauce? Whenever an organization comes to us or whenever a change maker comes to us and says, I have been tasked with um, implementing a CRM, or I have been tasked with making our operations more effective and more efficient. Um, I have been tasked with this transformation program. We turn around and say, let's step back for a second. Why? Because organizations often do start transformation in the wrong place. They start transformation in, we need to change the CRM, or we need to change our structure, or we need to make a change to thing. And actually say, let's stop 1 second. Who are you? What do you need to achieve in the world? What's the organization need to be known for? What is that magic that you need to be able to go and create, either in the market or society, which only you will uniquely or should uniquely um, go and create? Um, and that will allow us to help work with you and your people to fundamentally facilitate your people to work out what needs to change across
Right.
everything, people, process, and tech, to be able to go make that happen. So what's our magic? We I don't believe we don't succumb to this broken cycle of transformation. We don't
No.
think that people need transformation every 5 years.
Yeah.
We don't believe that because a bank is a bank, it looks like a bank and therefore should do what every other bank is doing.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying sounds a lot to me like the basic fundamentals of creative problem solving. Don't come up with a solution and then try and implement it. Go
yes.
back and first figure out what the hell's actually going on.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say, if all you have is a hammer, then everything will look like a nail.
Right.
You
Right.
know, the reality is that businesses and organizations across in every industry have completely sunsetted from firmly believing that what they have to offer is exactly what should be going out into the world without really understanding actually you exist, your value is based on, the contribution that you can make.
Right. How do you change that perspective? Because I mean, what I love about what you've said about the Rainmaker approach is that you then basically create the space or enable the process that the people within the organization make the change themselves.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds awfully simple to say, but from experience, I know that getting people to change their mind about change is not that easy. So, what does that require? What are the fundamentals of this?
I Can I be really honest? I think that for decades we have, or not we have had completely the wrong understanding of what change management really should be. I hate the idea of change management being this process by which, in a blue sky room, a group of people decide that something in their organization needs to change, decides the change, and then implements a group of change managers and change
Yeah,
champions to go and excite people about why they should change and what should change and how. And the reality is that's not how organizations actually run.
yeah,
We talk about the fact that I firmly believe, and bearing in mind I have been government CDO, I have held multi-million and billion-pound programs of change. I have had the best technologists in the entire world at dinner tables with me. I firmly believe it's possible to invest in the best tech and fail. I
yeah.
think it's
Well,
possible
it's
to
been done several times before, hasn't it?
design with teams the most perfect process or way of working on paper and
Yeah,
completely fail. And that's because fundamentally in organizations it is people that make change happen. um, and but yet we then don't understand why people won't change in the way we want them to. And I think
right.
it's fundamentally a really big misunderstanding on
Yeah,
motivation for people to change. If you
yeah.
can just bear with me for a second, let me explain that a little bit better than I've just explained it. I've clearly had a long day. Um,
Well,
Almost everybody I speak to,
if
sorry.
I can chip in there, I mean, what you
Yeah.
just described there is like classic waterfall command control model, which I think worked when you had people who come off the farm and needed to operate high precision, heavy machinery.
Yes.
But we don't live in that world anymore, do we?
No. No.
And we're still trying to run things like that a lot of the time.
Yeah. And you also have to remember, if you want to go and take that farming analogy, um, the environment of that farm, you know, obviously does change. So I'm not quite the agricultural thingy, but not quite in the same way in which
Right.
what we deliver, people who deliver, global services do today. There is honestly a belief that people in organizations are resistant to change. And I fundamentally disagree with that. I actually believe that most people go to work to do a good job.
Yeah.
Hardly anybody really goes to work to do a bad job. And if you think about the way in which humans work, people will often tend to do the things where they feel like their value is being recognized. So it's the reason why, when somebody gets promoted, it's the job title that means more to them than the salary increase, right? It's saying this person has this, this person's contribution is valuable to us. And now if you think about that, and then you decide that actually, but when we need to make a change, what we're going to do is go into a room, decide that we're going to make a change, and go to them and tell them that they need to change. All we're really saying to them is the value that you have been providing all of these years is no longer valuable to us. And in fact, it has such little value to us that we don't even think it's important that we involve you in determining how things should change. But now that we do know how we want it to change, these are all the things that we want you to do. And that fundamentally is what creates change resistance in organizations. It's what creates change fatigue in organizations. So if you completely flip that model, if you go, it's okay from the moment, it's okay to believe that things should be better. But from the moment there's that little red dot that says, I think we could be doing this better. Actually going out and engaging the people who live and breathe it every single day and saying to them, I think we can do this better. Can you be part of helping us design how? I promise you end up in a totally different change journey. They are the ones who instinctively know what works. They are the ones who know what doesn't work. They will co-design with you, and because they're valued, they feel valued and heard. They are invested in making that change happen.
Yeah, they go the extra mile.
Yeah.
My current theory is that it's not so much that people don't want to change, it's that they don't want to be told to change or forced to change.
Yeah. Because what are we saying to them when we do that? All we're saying is what you do today is no longer valuable to us.
Yeah. There's a fundamental mistrust here, isn't there? That whatever's coming out of the people, the staff's brain, is inferior to what the directorship is able to conceive of. Even though the staff is directly interfaced with your market, with your clients, with the people who are actually paying your directors' salaries. And I mean, what's that all about? Why is there so little trust about the creative potential, the problem-solving potential of your average working person?
Isn't this fundamentally just the difference between what makes good leaders and what doesn't? Leaders don't worry about being the person who has the answer. Leaders enable their entire teams to thrive and contribute their expertise and their and their own thoughts. Bad leaders arguably are not leaders at all, because nobody's leading them. They're just being forced to do what they're doing, and fundamentally will create cultures in which they're more superior, their people are more inferior, and then you do, of course, end up in a world where you have people who don't want to follow.
The whole system kind of rewards that approach, doesn't it?
I'm not entirely, well, I don't know. So I either Rainmaker is incredibly lucky, in that I could probably show you 500 people on my phone that are, leaders that do not sit there and decide that they are more superior, because maybe they've seen the light that actually thriving in today's world and delivering results requires a very different type of leadership. I don't think all organizations are like that. I think the majority have been.
Yeah. So if you look to a future, which is one where change is accelerating rapidly, and a lot of what you're talking about is going to be even more important, because the moment change goes beyond a certain rate of change, the ability to hire people in to help you is going to be it'll be too late already. So what I'm also interested in is the capacity building that Rainmaker does in order to perpetuate ongoing change once you leave your partnerships and your collaborations around specific change.
Oh gosh, of course, yeah. So that's really important to us. So David, you know that we've got the rule that we only work with people for 2 years. Like we'll only work on the same thing for 2 years, and it is because fundamentally it is the organization's people that need to be able to keep that evolving model going.
Yeah.
And not need to keep going out to the outside world to have a continual new transformation. It's not about knowledge transfer. It's about complete skills transfer. It's about enabling people to know how to think. So, we talk about our children going to school and developing growth mindset and learning how to learn. That fundamentally is what we are constantly doing. We have some brilliant techniques, and we will just sit there. We will make sure that everybody involved in something is actually sitting there learning the techniques and actually building that mindset of constantly being able to work out what is the root cause of the problem to solve in order to achieve the outcome. And as long as you get that level of business creativity and happening, the moment that happens, new techniques are going to come along. New ways of doing something are going to come along. AI is probably helping me more than it ever has before. But that curiosity and that innate openness to not assume that you have the answer and actually do the things that allow you to really find where to act is the thing that keeps them alive.
And that's culture.
That's culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome, Christina. It's been really good chatting to you. I want to ask you for a closing insight. In a fast-changing world, for people who are in a market and they need to keep up, but they obviously, we're probably half out of date already. What do I need to do if I'm a leader and I have not just a team, but an entire organization, or I'm a leader within an organization and we need to change something so that we can stay relevant? What's the most important thing we can change?
Invite your people in to help you solve the problem from the moment you get an inkling that there might be one.
Right.
They are ultimately the people that know day in, day out what's working, what's not working, what's sticky, what's not so sticky, how things could be better. Be very open to trialing and testing new things. Gone is the day where we have wholesale big change that happens in one go and takes multiple years. Like, the world doesn't work like that anymore. We have a world of pilots and exemplars and honestly, I think just be open to allowing your people to genuinely bring their whole selves and their own creativity. And I have seen some exceptional things created in organizations by leaders who literally just enabled their teams to go away and try and hack away at a potential thing on their own.
Brilliant. From words to the wise. I like that a lot. Christina, thank you so much for your time and for coming onto the show to chat with me about change and creativity today.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for everybody who was listening, I hope you paid attention to the end there. The only solution is creativity, quite clearly. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but there we go. If you enjoyed this conversation with Christina, please check out the show notes where you can find the links to the Rainmaker Solutions so you can find out more about what she and her organization are getting up to in the world of change. And remember, to rebel against the status quo, reject your own assumptions so that you have room to create the new solutions that tomorrow will require. Until next time, ciao.